The Akara Seller's Story. Episode 1. In the quiet village of Umud, where red earth stained the feet of children running home from school and palm trees swayed gently under the evening sun, lived a woman named Grace. Everyone in the village called her Mama Akara. Grace was not always an akara seller. She had once been the wife of a proud farmer named Michael. Together, they had 3 children, David, Esther, and Ruth. Their life was simple but happy until one rainy season when Michael fell sick with a fever. There was no money for proper hospital treatment, so Grace relied on local herbs and the prayers of neighbors. Within 2 weeks, Michael was gone. His death left Grace shattered. She was only 33 years old, a widow with 3 mouths to feed and no savings. The land Michael had farmed was quickly taken over by his brothers, who insisted tradition gave them the right to his property. Grace cried, pleaded, and even went to the village elders, but no one stood by her. She was left with nothing, just her children and the thatched mud hut Michael had built. To survive, Grace began frying akara by the roadside. Every morning, she would wake before dawn, grind beans with her old stone grinder, and light a small fire outside her hut. The sizzling sound of akara frying became the sound that woke the neighborhood. She sold them to school children, farmers heading to the fields, and travelers passing by the dusty village road. Though her akara business fed her children, it came with shame and struggle. The fire burned her hands countless times, and on days when the price of beans rose, she sometimes had to sell on credit or beg neighbors for help. Many mocked her. See how a woman who once wore lace at the harvest festival is now standing by the roadside smelling of smoke and oil. Her children bore the brunt of poverty. David, her eldest, often went to school without sandals. Esther was constantly sent home for unpaid fees. Ruth, the youngest, was malnourished and frequently fell ill. Grace often sat by her fire, tears mixing with the smoke, whispering, "God, do you see me? Am I not your daughter too?" Things worsened when her daughter Esther, ashamed of their poverty, began staying away from school. Other children mocked her, calling her akara pikin. At just 12 years old, she started hawking firewood to help her mother. Grace tried to stop her, but hunger had already broken the girl's spirit. One evening, during the rainy season, disaster struck. The heavy wind that swept through the village toppled Grace's akara stand, scattering her beans, charcoal, and frying pan into the mud. Neighbors rushed out, but instead of helping, some only shook their heads in pity. Grace sat in the rain, holding her empty pan, crying helplessly as her children tried to gather what they could from the mud. Her situation became more desperate when her son David dropped out of school. He had been mocked too many times for not paying his fees and for always coming late after helping his mother grind beans. He told Grace he wanted to go to the city to hustle, but he was only 15. Grace tried to stop him, but her words fell on deaf ears. A few weeks later, he disappeared with a group of boys heading to Lagos. Grace never heard from him again. Her akara business continued, but her heart grew heavier. She would smile at customers, hand them their akara, and then retreat into silence. Only at night did she cry, whispering to herself, "If Michael had lived, if his brothers had helped me, maybe my life would not be like this." Years passed, and Grace's beauty faded under the weight of suffering. Her hands became dark and rough from oil and fire. Her back bent from standing too long. She had no savings, no husband, and her children's futures had withered like dry leaves. In the village, people still bought her akara, but behind her back, they pitied her. She was the woman whose laughter had once filled the harvest festivals, now reduced to a lonely akara seller with broken dreams. Yet every morning, before dawn, the fire at Grace's hut still burned. The sizzle of akara frying still woke the village. And though her heart was weary, she held on, because in that small akara stand, she found the last thread of dignity keeping her alive. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and follow me for more stories on the akara seller's story. Bye for now.